When you think of disastrous game launches, what comes to mind? No Man's Sky, Fallout 76, everything Bungie has released since Halo Reach? There is one that I often don't see discussed. It's one I actually had the privilege of experiencing from the day of release to the end of life. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Zombies. A game with a relatively niche community, but a complete disaster nonetheless. In order to understand the failure of Black Ops 4, we need to go back to the previous game. The final map of Black Ops 3 was Revelations. This map was quite interesting. It was extremely hyped up, and that hype continued into its launch. However, after the week-long search to find a bone, seriously, I am pretty sure the reason the main quest took so long to solve was because of this step. The quest was completed. There was also a bit of a blue screen issue, which is very important to remember, but was not really the main problem that people had with this map. There was one question on everyone's minds. Is that it? The story basically ends with the game saying, "And it was all a big loop," before slapping you across the face. MrRoflWaffles started an entire series called There's Got to Be More, because no one could believe that everything that was set up was just ignored. In the final cutscene, the characters basically say nothing, as Malcolm McDowell attempts to wipe them from existence. Tokyo just nods at Nikolai before Richtofen speaks up, like, why is this ending so boring? So leading into Black Ops 4, people are already now expecting some kind of answer for Revelations ending. Now, there is one more thing that Black Ops 3 had up its sleeve. It wasn't exactly DLC 5 as everyone thought it might be, but a bonus pack containing 8 remastered Zombies maps. It was one of the highest selling DLCs of all time, at least on PlayStation, and this is important because it essentially wiped any disappointment that people had about the ending of Black Ops 3 off their minds. Meaning that the only thing leading into Black Ops 4 was hype. And here we are. The reveal event. I think I remember this happening while I was eating lunch back in high school. To say that people were hyped because of this event was an understatement. The game was shaping up to be the greatest Zombies experience. Here's the thing about Black Ops 3 Zombies. A majority of people loved it, but most would agree that the game didn't have too much to do outside of the maps themselves. There weren't any other game modes, no real progression to choose, and for outsiders of the community, it was a little difficult to get into. But Black Ops 4 seemed like it was gonna change that. So the reveal really begins with a cutscene for a new map. It showed 4 people who absolutely no one knew being sent into a coliseum of sorts. They then confirmed that this storyline had nothing to do with the previous. That automatically made some people a little weary of the game, but then came the reveal of a bunch of new features. Here is a list of everything that was promised. Custom mutations. Essentially a custom game. Choose from how many zombies spawn, what types, what weapons are in the mystery box, etc. There would have been a stamp system that essentially allowed you to share exactly what your settings were and your achievements. Callings, described as limited time curated challenges. These would include themed events, such as Halloween, and general seasonal challenges. Bot support. As Jason Blundell put it, you can enjoy the full narrative experience that comes with co-op, which people assume meant you could do the quest with them. Zombie Rush, a brand new game mode. It would serve both as a way to get new people playing and a challenge for veteran players. Difficulty levels. I don't really think I need to explain, because, well, Jason Blundell didn't actually explain them either. A tutorial. Fantastic. Oh, and I don't know if this was actually mentioned at the reveal, but factions were announced to be a major part of the game. My expectations of this game was basically Black Ops 3 Zombies, but more. Just more to do, more to earn, more to see. But that wasn't the end of the reveal. No, there was a second map coming on launch. Once again, it was the same set of characters, but this time they were on the Titanic. Alright, but surely that was it, right? 2 maps, a bunch of new features. There was literally no mention of the previous storyline, but no. That's not it. Black Ops 4 was going to launch with 3 fully fledged, fully loaded Zombies experiences on day 1. So, what was this third map? From the few seconds of trailer, it seemed to be a remake of Mob of the Dead. but with the Primus crew, which was the entire Black Ops 3 crew. So what many people consider to be the greatest Zombies map ever created, with the fan-favorite crew. What could go wrong? So this reveal had a few doubters, but for the vast majority of people, especially the YouTubers, this piqued their hype, including mine. Because as I said, I thought this would be Black Ops 3, but more. Alright, now I want to do a fast forward to this game's release, because that is the juicy stuff. A few quick mentions. There was actually a 4th map, later confirmed to be a remake of 5, with the Ultimus crew, the original crew. So that's 4 fully fledged maps. On the launch gameplay trailer for Black Ops 4, a Zombies YouTuber named Mr. T Lexify literally commented saying, "Things are about to change." And I just find that really funny, because I guess he wasn't entirely wrong. Some pre-alpha gameplay leaked, and people thought that the HUD looked really poor. But, you know, that's pre-alpha gameplay. That's obviously not what the final product will look like. Right? And here we are. The release of Black Ops 4 Zombies. When I first loaded the game, I was ecstatic. My plan was to first play Classified, then the 2 Chaos maps, which is the name of the new story, then Blood of the Dead. A bit of a saving the best for last scenario. I still remember my first thought loading into a map for the first time. This looks kind of weird. And I couldn't tell if my eyes were seeing things wrong or the game just looked kind of worse than Black Ops 3. Honestly, that's all I really remember from my first time experience. But oh boy, the next couple of weeks. One of the first things you would notice when going from Black Ops 3 to Black Ops 4 is that the fundamental systems of the game are changed. Seriously, play World of War all the way to Black Ops 3, and you will find that they each feel fairly similar. But this game does not. The points no longer work based on hits. Zombies essentially have a max amount of points you can earn from them. Any strategy you might have used to build points in the early rounds is no longer viable. Juggernaut does not exist in this game, and on release the health was maxed at 150, which was 3 hits on the normal difficulty. I think the worst change of all is the zombies themselves. In Black Ops 3, if you knife a zombie, it doesn't really react, which makes sense. Zombies are just kind of mindless, unfeeling killing machines. But in Black Ops 4, knifing a zombie causes it to do a backflip into a Dark Souls roll. Shooting and stabbing zombies suddenly feels like doing the step in Buried, where you have to shoot these targets that pop up. And okay, alright, it's not that hard, but it really feels inconvenient and unnecessary. Then there are perks. In Black Ops 3, one of the major complaints was that no new perks were ever created aside from Widow's Wine on release. Black Ops 4 added a ton of new perks, and it would continue to do so throughout the game's lifespan. Which sounds great, however, they did this while also changing the entire system. So they added a ton of new perks, but you could only ever use 4. I can't do 4 with my hand. Rather than having perk machines on the map, you know, the iconic perk machines that fans of the game would instantly recognize and added a level of charm to the game, yep, they're replaced with generic machines that have no jingle. They wanted to remove crutch perks like Juggernog, and I guess this was their solution? Except, they didn't remove crutch perks, because eventually people would just start using the exact same 4 perks. Try playing this game without stamina or PhD. So the core gameplay is already worse than ever before. That alone could have been enough to cause this game downfall, but no. That's not even what most people complain about at first. There was a much more pressing issue. The game always crashed.
Woo! We're so close. Chat, listen, we are about to go into this boss fight.
Mods?
If you tried playing with multiple people, it was almost impossible to do a main quest or go for high rounds. I literally remember playing the game, thinking to myself that I had not experienced any crashes, then crashing in that exact same game while doing the main quest for that map. The blue screen is perhaps the most infamous part of Black Ops 4's release. But in my opinion, the game would have ended up the same way without them. And that's not even the end of the issues. Let's do a little bit of a lightning round, shall we? The game released with all 4 maps at once, meaning that the community was divided into trying to solve 4 different quests at the same time. Combine that with the blue screens and the fact that the steps were probably bugged half the time, and the quests took much longer to complete than they should have. And the biggest feeling everyone felt when doing it was relief, not satisfaction. Some of the stuff that was promised didn't actually exist. There were no factions, though they were supposed to come at a later date. The only thing I remember about callings is it happened at Halloween, and the reward was face paint. This is a first-person game. Zombie Rush was fun for a round or two, but, you know, that's about it. Custom Mutations was fun for a round or two, but that's about it. You can't actually make any progress when playing it, so people just quickly stop playing. Gobblegums had been replaced with this tonic system thing, and one complaint about Black Ops 3 was that Gobblegums were too powerful. So all the tonics in this game just sucked, at least at first, and they were also much harder to get. The HUD is terrible. The alpha gameplay didn't lie, it's basically the same. And the Chaos storyline got off to a very rough start. People didn't exactly enjoy the new characters, the writing was questionable, and worst of all, people could not tell if Voyage of Despair or 9 was the first map in the storyline. It's Voyage of Despair, but even the ending cutscene of that map hardly feels connected to 9. I have a feeling that since 9 was the first revealed map, they purposely made this opening vague to, you know, not establish their connection. And of course, let's not forget one thing. They're trying to introduce a new storyline after people were disappointed with the ending of Revelations and wanted more. So, most people flocked to Blood of the Dead and Classified. And now on the topic of maps, oh boy. The failures just don't end. Black Ops were released with 2 maps that are often, and I would agree with this statement, considered to be the worst maps of all time. At least in Treyarch. Voyage of Despair and Blood of the Dead. But before I talk about these 2, let me talk about the other 2. Classified was never meant to be a big map. It's a bonus map, and it's just fine. It's actually pretty good for a bonus map. However, there was one major thing about this map. It technically has a main quest, which bonus maps usually don't. And want to know what the main quest is? Reach round 150. Want to know something you could not do on the game's release? Reach round 150 without the game crashing, unless you used a glitch. 9 is actually a really good map. It's understandable why they advertised this map first. It is a map you can just hop into and enjoy. Of course, every single map made for the game is tarnished by the fact that it has to use the Black Ops 4 system. The fact that this map is enjoyable says a lot. The final boss fight is still arguably one of the best in Treyarch, and the quest itself is quite decent, but Voyage of Despair. This map takes place on the Titanic, and the Titanic is kind of cramped. There's not much of an area to really run around on this map, and that's not a small thing. This map feels like a chore to play. It's massive and it can be difficult to navigate, but worst of all, the main quest. This map is set on the Titanic. You would think that the main quest might revolve around the ship sinking. No. I mean, you do go inside of the iceberg at the end, but that's really the only relation. And by the way, I think the iceberg is actually revealed to be housing like a god or something. I don't remember the plot, just a fun little fact. The quest is just a pain. You spend most of it standing still while interacting with things or looking for symbols. Then there is the infamous planet step. It's a cool step where you have to shoot down planets, but why on the Titanic? What does this have to do with the Titanic? Seriously, why? Why just set it on a random ship and have it be stationary? The fact that it's sinking makes no difference. Voyage of Despair's biggest sin is that it just isn't fun. But compared to the Blood of the Dead, I honestly think it's not entirely awful. So Blood of the Dead is a map that, and maybe this is a hot take, never got the hate it deserved. Like, everyone agrees that this map isn't good. Okay, that's not a hot take. But it is more than that. This is a remake of one of the most beloved maps of all time. How could you possibly take the best map of all time and make it one of, if not, the worst map of all time? Well, much like Voyage of Despair, the map is very large and painful to navigate. Every time you start the map, you have to go through the catwalk section to reach the main prison. The main part of Mob of the Dead, the afterlife system, doesn't exist. Instead, everything is done through the zombie shield. In order to charge the shield, I have no better way of phrasing this. You need to suck the zombies slowly. Every single time you want to charge the shield. Then there is the main quest, and this to me is the reason why this map might be the worst. This quest is everything a quest shouldn't be. You first need to wait until round 13, or you need to get a monkey bomb. Then, using the golden spore, which the steps to get were broken for a long time, knife this wall, have Brutus do this slam attack, which only happens past round 13 or on a monkey bomb. And then you can start. I think this step took like a week to figure out. The core of this quest is helping random souls be freed. These are either escorting a slow target to the other side of the map or defending a point. Oh, and of course, Morse code. Oh, and this extremely long Simon Says one. You might have noticed that I did not even bother going to get new footage for this quest. One of the escort steps requires you to suck a zombie until it turns red. But that's what you do. Don't blame me, that's just what you do. That means if you are solo, you need to hold your shield up for like 2 minutes and be incapable of killing zombies. For any average attempt, this quest takes around 3 hours. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the first part of this quest forces you to go through 4 rounds of checking the entire map for a bird that can be only seen through a shield. And once all of that is done, the quest actually gets pretty decent. You have this cool part where Brutus says like something, he's kind of just yapping, and then you witness him ascend to a higher plane before a mediocre boss fight that leads into what is probably the best ending to a main quest. It's emotional, and genuinely got people hyped for what was to come. Except, they never came. Because whatever plans they originally had were scrapped. Since after a few weeks of the game releasing, it was already done for. People just stopped playing. Forget about the blue screens, the maps, the bugs, the strange delivery of content. The game just isn't very fun to play. So I'll talk briefly about the DLC of the game, since no matter what they released, the damage was too great to remedy. The first DLC came out with very little notice. I remember checking YouTube and finding it had been released through a video from a week ago that explained how to do the main quest. This map, Dead of the Night, was a prequel to the Chaos storyline. This map is actually a decent map in my opinion. The biggest flaw is that it wasn't the first Chaos map that we could play. Seriously, it would have made so much more sense and been much better if this game was our introduction to this story. At this point, it just told us stuff that we already knew. After that came Ancient Evil, a legitimately great map. I don't think it's as good as something like Der Eisendrache, but it did something no other Chaos map had done. It made people excited for the story. The ending was a twist. The main plot of the story up until this point had been about finding Scarlet's father, who had been revealed to be turned to stone by Medusa. 2 of the main characters are now under mind control. Scarlet gets knocked out, and Diego is the only one left standing as Medusa becomes the main threat. Once again, it unfortunately went nowhere. The next 2 maps went back to the original storyline. This was planned, but there was supposed to be more maps after these 2 that went back to Chaos. Those 2 Ether maps were remakes of Nuketown and Call of the Dead. That's right, the ending to the entire story takes place in remakes. Alpha Omega is the penultimate map that I played for about a week and then never touched again. Tog der Toten is the final map that you don't even play as the main characters in. You play as the crew from Black Ops 2, and they just kind of get wiped out of existence at the end. All of the main characters die, as Nikolai reveals that their existence is a reason for everything going wrong. And that's it. The end. Now, I didn't even touch on all of the problems that this game had. There was a lot more that was happening behind the scenes. Jason Blundell, the lead director, left halfway through, for example. The reason I didn't really touch on stuff like this is because, while it may have been relevant back then, it's not the reason this game failed, at least in my opinion. Black Ops 4 is not a game that has become better over time. It was rightfully hated on release due to all of the issues, but those issues didn't actually kill the game. No matter what, the game will always be a victim of its own design. It's just not fun to play. I think the best way to sum it up is a comment I remember reading. It went something along the lines of, I would rather play Voyage of Despair on Black Ops 3 than Der Eisendrache on Black Ops 4. So, what happened after? The Chaos storyline never got any resolution, though parts of it have actually come back in Black Ops 6. It forever tarnished the zombies community. Like, seriously, it has never recovered from this. Cold War came out, and the reactions were mixed, maybe leaning more positive. Some people have gone on to say that Black Ops 4 was actually underrated and that Cold War and Black Ops 6 are terrible compared to it. I have to say, stop. Please. The reason that Cold War and Black Ops 6 are the way they are is because of the failure of Black Ops 4 Zombies. And I'm not saying you can't enjoy the game and that Cold War and Black Ops 6 are masterpieces, but just never forget that Zombies is the way it is today because of the absolute failure of Black Ops 4 Zombies. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can check out my channel and like and comment down below. Thanks for watching.